Hey everybody. ADHD. Is it a disorder or is it a superpower? We'll start with, you know what these three people have in common. We'll start with Richard Branson over there. Richard Branson had a rough childhood. His high school teachers considered him to be one of the dumbest kids in his high school. And Richard Branson dropped out. Secondary, we've got Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise went through 11 different school systems before he graduated high school, and yet went on to be one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. Steve Jobs here had a rough childhood. His mother didn't want him, didn't know who his father was, so she gave him up for adoption. His life didn't get any better than that, and he got expelled from school in the 3rd grade. How do you get expelled in the 3rd grade? What do these three people have in common? They have dyslexia. They have a problem with reading, writing, and spelling. How about these three? I love these. Tyler Perry grew up in extreme poverty. Tyler Perry tried to commit suicide 3 times, and yet went on to be a big movie producer and owns his own movie studio in Atlanta. How about Woody Harrelson here? I might date myself with Woody. TV star, blockbuster movies. Woody Harrelson's father was a hitman for the mob. Murdered a judge, got 2 life sentences. Oprah Winfrey. Now this one, I'll be surprised if a lot of people know this one. Oprah Winfrey, rough childhood. She was pregnant at the age of 14 and lost her child. And yet went on to be one of the wealthiest women in the world. What do they have in common? Child abuse. What about these two? I'm going to date myself again here. Anybody ever see the movie Ghostbusters? We've got a couple of those right now. Dan Aykroyd had Tourette's syndrome as a child, that thing where you just yell at people all the time, and was fascinated with ghosts and the police. The ghost thing made him write the movie Ghostbusters, and the police thing, he still carries a badge around with him today to make himself feel safe. Elon Musk, I don't have to introduce him, richest man in the world. And what do they have in common? Asperger's syndrome. Just emotionally awkward. How about these three? Bill Gates over here made it through high school, got into college, couldn't sit still, couldn't focus, dropped out. And went on to change the world with Microsoft, or at least the world of computing. Michael Phelps here, rough childhood, teachers told him he would never amount to anything. Parents going through a nasty divorce, and so to escape his life, he went down to the pool and started swimming. And went on to win more gold medals than anybody in history in the Olympics. And then there's this guy, Brian Will, that's me. Raised in a very abusive home, failed out of high school at the age of 16, and yet went on to build multiple companies worth nearly $1 billion. Became a 4-time best-selling author, 2-time Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Not bad for a kid who failed English. What do these people have in common? And many, many more CEOs. We have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You see, everybody on this screen here grew up with some kind of abuse or learning disability. And yet the people on the screen chose not to let that stop them. They chose to go on and do great things with their life. But you see, the world is full of people who are growing up with the same issues that they've got. And those issues have created a belief in them. And that belief has made them think that they can't go on and succeed at a high level. And that belief, many times, stops them from even trying. And I'm betting some of the people in this audience know people just like that. In fact, I'm betting some of the people in this audience have stopped trying because they don't believe they can do it. Now, I could go through a lot of different issues, a lot of different paths I could go down here, but we only have time for one. And since the title of my talk is ADHD, disorder or superpower, we're going to start with that. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, I don't like that phrase because it ends in the word disorder, as if something's wrong with you if you have it. But the reality is ADHD is just a different way of focusing and seeing the world. You see, I can tell you right now as I'm standing here talking to you guys, there is a second part of my brain that's watching you and wondering what you're thinking about. There's another part of my brain watching this camera guy over here, and watching this person, and watching her over here. My brain is focused on so many things that it's hard for me to focus sometime on one thing. My brain bounces from idea to idea at lightning speed. For instance, how many people have ever had an idea, walked into the next room, and forgot what you were doing?
Yeah.
Right? That's my life every single day. I'll go into my office to sit down and write something. In fact, when I sat down to write this talk I'm giving you right now, I sit down in front of my computer, I've got good intentions, and yet the next thing you know, I'm doom scrolling TikTok. I'm looking at the news. I'm doing anything I can except what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's actually why I failed out of high school. That's me in high school. Rocking the headband. You see, when I was in the 7th grade, it was 1979. That was 46 years ago. And yes, I am that old. And I struggled. I couldn't get through reading assignments. I was failing more classes than I was passing. To the point that my teachers told me that I should get IQ tested because they wanted to see if there was really something wrong with me. Because you see, when I was in school, ADHD had not yet been recognized as a learning disability. That didn't happen until 1989. And I ended up getting out of school in 1983. Back then, we were just told we weren't very smart, or we weren't focused or motivated. I was told I would never really amount to anything. And I had no shot at college. So I get out of high school, I go on to my adult life, and I found these traits continuing to come with me as I got older. And I want to see if you recognize any of these. I would find myself cutting people off in the middle of a conversation. You know anybody like that? You're talking to them, and I would cut them off. You know why I cut them off? Because my brain's moving so fast, I already knew what they were going to say. And I already knew what I was going to say back. So I didn't want to stop listening to them. I didn't want to listen to them. I just wanted to cut them off, and I'd finish the sentence. The problem is, if my brain has an inactivity period of any sort, it needs to do something. Yeah, I need to pick up my phone. I need to look at it. I need input, or my brain goes crazy. If you and I are sitting down and we're talking, I see you patting her over there, and we're talking, and I pick up my phone, it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just that my brain needs more input than you're giving me at this moment. Okay? ADHD can be difficult to deal with. But I will tell you that myself included, and a lot of CEOs and high-performing people will tell you that ADHD is actually a large part of why they are successful. You see, ADHD is just a different way to do things. And the problem is I didn't know that until I got older. And when I got older and I started studying it, I realized that I had the ADHD and that my brain's just wired differently. The problem I have is if whatever you're telling me isn't super important, it just kind of bounces off my brain and doesn't get in there. I forget people's names the minute they tell me them. And then I say, you know what? I apologize, my brain is full. There's no more room. So unless you're telling me something super duper important, I'm probably going to forget it. And I apologize for that. On the other hand, there are positives to ADHD. Those are all the negatives. There are positives. And the positives are people with ADHD have the ability to multitask at a really high rate. In fact, it's not just that they can multitask, it's that they enjoy multitasking. People with ADHD tend to thrive under pressure. You see a lot of successful people in business and whatever else they do, they succeed because great success sometimes comes with chaos. And people with ADHD thrive in chaos. Now, contrary to everything I've just told you, people with ADHD also have the ability to hyperfocus. In my case, I like to write. I've written 4 books. And when I write, I will sit down for 5 to 10 hours at a time. Now, does anybody else in here think sitting down for 10 hours of writing is fun? I do. People with ADHD are great problem solvers. You know why? Because when faced with a problem, their brains are moving so fast, they'll come up with 10 different solutions to that problem like that. chances are one of those solutions will work. I like this one. I call this the 360-degree floor-to-ceiling view of the world around you. People with ADHD are watching everything, much like I pointed her out a minute ago. I see what's going on. And if we're in business and I'm watching everything, and you're only paying attention to what you're doing, I will see problems and solutions much faster than you. That's a huge advantage in business. Okay, we got some problems, we've got good, we've got bad. How does ADHD affect me? I have the ability to absorb large amounts of information very quickly, at a high level, if it's interesting. I have the ability to make really quick decisions with limited information and move on. I have this weird ability to look at a spreadsheet and find the errors in the formulas in minutes. You see, the way my brain works is weird. I see the world and problems and everything in it as a puzzle. You ever put together a 100-piece puzzle and there's a piece missing at the end or a piece that doesn't fit? That's the way my brain sees everything. And it doesn't see the picture, it only sees the problem. Does that make sense? So, with all that being said, we got good, we got bad. How do we make your ADHD a superpower for you? We got 4 steps. First, you need to find your strengths within the ADHD. They're probably not the same as mine, but you need to find those strengths and figure out how to capitalize on them. Just as important, you need to find your weaknesses, although I don't like to call them weaknesses. I call them areas of my life that I outsource to other people. Okay? And then you need to surround yourself with a team of people that you can outsource those issues to. And finally, you need to use some of that multitasking ability to monitor yourself. Because sometimes you need to recognize when you need to slow your own brain down so that you can actually get something done. Those are the 4 steps. And I encourage you to find somebody that understands ADHD to help you understand how to find your strengths and weaknesses and how to capitalize on them. And to wrap this up, ADHD is not a disorder. It's a different order. We focus, we learn, everything we do is just a little bit different. But the key is to understand how your brain works. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Build systems around that. Surround yourself with people who can allow you to do what you do while they take care of everything else. Properly managed, and if you choose, ADHD can be your superpower.